Hello and welcome to episode number 30, a very special episode of Just Shillin'. I am one of your hosts, Sean Hoffman.
And I'm your other host, Andy Bell. And this week we are honored, nay blessed, with a podcasting legend that has deemed us worthy of his presence. And we have our buddy Turbo joining us to talk about stuff. How you doing, Turbo?
Wow, the podcasting legend. I haven't heard that one before, but thank you. I think I'm more of a podcasting guest than sort of hang around kind of thing. But yeah, I'll take it. Thanks for having me,
Mate,
guys.
Sean and I were talking about it last week, and I think that between you and King Tom, you're almost like the royalty of the Southern Hemisphere. So you've pretty much been on pretty much everyone's podcast, and like I said, you and I have been talking for quite a while now on I Am about getting together and getting our proverbial shit together so that we can start talking about the kind of stuff that we talk about on I Am, and it's just an absolute pleasure to have you. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, guys. Looking forward to having a chat.
And we've been
So,
Turbo and I've been chatting in public channels about our decks. And so there's that
decking.
too. So
Just decking.
just decking it. Yeah. That's my contribution to the conversation there, Andy.
Good night, everyone. Thank you, Turbo. Really appreciate your time. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and Andy's going to get to know the word brevity this week. I promise you guys. And what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and get through the usual stuff as quickly as possible, and then use this episode to talk to Turbo. See, interruptions don't help here, Sean. But anyway, talk to Turbo about what he picked up and what he found exciting about D23, and also one of the reasons for getting him on was his amazing recommendations that he's had on our televisual entertainment over the last week or so. So first of all, though, guess first. Turbo, what have you been up to, mate? Anything been rocking your world over recent days, weeks, and months?
I can't go back that far, so I'll have to say a week.
Go on.
What have I done this week? I I have to talk about my record collection. So Chris Hall will, if he's listening, will enjoy this one. I got a new King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard record. It's the 26th album. So that arrived in the mail. So that's rocking my world at the moment. In terms of Star Wars, I didn't really get much in the last month or so, but I did finally order the third book in the J.W. Rinsler making of Star Wars. So Return of the Jedi making of Star Wars, like coffee table style book. I haven't had a chance to look at that one, but there's some nuggets in there that's really always a good read, those two. What else?
And when you order books like that, do you normally get them through Amazon? Because I learned the hard way not to order books through Amazon, and certainly in the UK, they come beaten, battered, and I shouldn't be precious because they're only.
I do Amazon. They usually come pretty well. I haven't had any problem with books at all. It's only if you order with other things and they sort of jumble together and move around, kind of thing. But if you just order books, they usually pack pretty
cool.
My favorite's when they put a book in there and like with, I don't know, ball bearings or something, or like hip free weights. When it comes in a monster box, you could tell it's just been banging around. All the puffy air pillow packaging they're all popped, and it's like nice. I'm glad that this was packaged together. This is cool.
In terms of what have I done? I saw a documentary, and I don't know if you've heard of this band, but there's a band called Mogwai from the UK, from Glasgow.
Yeah.
They have a documentary, and there was a premiere at the Opera House on Friday. So I saw that. Cool. So some young punks from Glasgow from about, I think, 20 odd years ago. I think their latest album finally reached #1 in the UK. So this indie band finally made it big time. So I don't know honestly how big they are, but they've always been a favorite band. So that was a cool documentary. What else? Tonight I'm going to see Alien Romulus, so I've got that book for IMAX.
Nice, very nice.
And
I've got my own just to chip in. Then I've got my own tickets, but unfortunately for next Monday, I've got a bit of a weekend ahead of us with some friends. So I've got to try and avoid all social media until Monday. Well, Tuesday, because I'll be going Monday night. But I've heard so far the reviews are good, very good, in fact.
But it's very,
So
very horror so far, which is
have a
really
blast, mate. Have a blast.
what else? Um, as I usually do, I saw a band on the weekend. So, one of the good things is so it's a band called Knievel, so after Evil Knievel, but it's a Sydney band from the 90s. But one of the cool things is, and I think Andy, you could relate, is when your kids get older, it's so nice to be able to just leave them at home by themselves, and you and your wife can go out. It's such a great feeling. You're at the other end of the parental responsibilities, and hopefully you've done your job, and they're doing the right thing and can stay home alone. Which it's working so far. So
Yeah,
yeah,
date nights are back on, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Um,
Nice.
and I think lastly, one of those things of talking about pulling the trigger. I pulled the trigger on the Jaws Lego. I missed out on the first round of Jaws. I had it in my cart and it just sold out, and they're on back order now. I pulled the trigger, and I was talking to Matt Frost,
Nice.
Frush, about that, and
Hmm.
he's pulled the trigger as well. So yeah, that should
Nice.
arrive at the end of the month.
Never a
Well,
bad investment, Lego. Never a
yeah,
bad investment.
yeah,
Cool.
that's
What
what I've
about
been
you,
up.
Sean? How's your week been?
My week's been pretty good. Pretty good. The deck is getting close to being finished, so I can stop talking about that. You know,
Did
for
you
all
want
of
me
the
to talk
people who are
about
on.
my deck, or no?
You mean if you want to, if you feel like you got some
No,
updates
I
that
don't want
people like. I mean, I feel like my deck conversation is really carrying the weight of this podcast at this point. Like our viewers, our listener numbers are just really, really spiking right at the when I start talking about that.
But when you
My hands
finish the
hurt.
deck,
I'm tired. Yeah.
when you finish
Go
the
ahead.
deck, what, like, are you going to keep talking about the deck, or is it done with deck
Oh,
talk?
the project, the deck itself will be done, but there's like it's connected to like 6 other projects that have come up. They're not my ideas, but like things that have spun off through somebody else who lives here. And they're like, wouldn't it be cool if we like made this a sunroom or did this other thing? It's like, yeah, that would be great. Does that mean I have to do it? And yeah, that answer is yes. So though the projects won't be done, but the deck specifically will be done soon. But
Unless you
I don't
have
know.
Nice.
I guess
you kind of you kind of Forrest Gump moment, and you get to the end of the decking and you just keep decking. You just keep decking
yeah,
for
I just
weeks
keep
and
going.
months. You
I
just
just go
keep
back and
going.
start over again, or just
No,
just
no, no,
keep
no, no,
building
no.
the deck,
Just keep going maybe in a straight line as well. You know,
just connect it to my
it could.
neighbors, and just keep going. Just
Sean,
like build a
dude,
bridge.
what's going on? I've got nothing else to do. I've got to
I
keep
don't know how to
decking.
stop. If I stop this, then I have to switch to something else. I'm actually getting pretty good
Excellent.
at it. So besides
God,
that,
we're,
I went
we're
to
so
a
rad.
bloody I went to a Bloody Mary competition
Yay.
on Sunday, which I'm sure Andy is tired of hearing me talk about and send photos of, uh, where it was. I didn't get to judge it, but it was like all these local. It was put on by like a local vodka company, like Tahoe Blue Vodka, um, and you could get a ticket and you could have unlimited tastings of all these like local restaurants, and all their little various Bloody Mary concoctions, plus all of like, so it's a competition, so they obviously throwing everything they can at it. So like some of them would have like, oh, like a bunch of shrimp on top, and other ones would put like an entire cheeseburger and then like 7,000 vegetables on top of it. And like I'm talking like these little cups are maybe like like the equivalent of maybe like 3 or 4 regular like out liquor shots, but they're still putting a cheeseburger and all this stuff on top, and you can eat as much as you want. So needless to say, I was pretty drunk by the time I was done. It was fantastic. I told Andy that I was gonna. They had these giant inflatable liquor bottles, and um, I don't know if you guys had the show Supermarket Sweep in either one of your respective countries, like in the
Oh,
'90s.
yes.
But
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
oh,
Yep.
but it's like I don't. It's something what triggered in me when I saw those big inflatable vodka bottles. I'm like, that is going to be mine. Like I'm going home with that. Even though I rode my bike here, that's gonna be mine. It was not mine. They saw that on my face and they were like, as soon as that event ended, they had those things deflating and run off. They ran off with them really quick. So no, I did not get that. Um, outside of that, the Wienermobile is going to be here in 2 days, so I'm pretty excited for that. The Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, for those who don't know what that is. I don't know if that helps.
I think I
And
tipped you off on that location, didn't I?
yes, yeah, and it's crazy because that's like a mile away from my house, so it's like it's insanely close, and I am ridiculously excited to go see the Wienermobile in my town. Well, that was fun after a minute of technical difficulties. I don't know what we're going to be able to edit back into that, but I think it, like Turbo just said, I think it was too much wiener talk. But to round that off, yeah, I'm going to see the Wienermobile. For those who don't know, it's the Oscar Mayer meat company, hot dogs. They make hot dogs, and they have a car that looks like it has a giant hot dog on top for promotional stuff. So I'm going to go see that. So yeah, outside of that, for the Just Grillin' segment, it's Hatch chili season, and I shout out to Christine. Had some Hatch chili mac and cheese. Jimmy Dice will appreciate the Just Grillin' section. But outside of that, that's been my week. What about you, Andy?
It's been a short one, dude. It's I can keep this nice, short but sweet. I was going to tell you that I got my tickets for Alien Romulus, which we've already talked about, but I was really going to focus this week's news on my Costco update and the saga of me discovering the delights of Costco, my friend. And unfortunately, it's a non-starter for me over here, mate. I'm afraid. As we finish, about 24 hours after we, not even that, probably 12 hours after we finished recording last week, I got a text from our buddy Chris, and who said, "Don't bother, mate. In the UK, there's a membership, which I appreciate. There is a membership pretty much everywhere. Costco's set up across the globe, but unfortunately, you have to own a business or be an employee of that business registered with an account at Costco and or part of what we call the blue light services. So police, fire, government worker, so on and so forth. So not only do you have to be, you're either a sole trader or a business owner yourself and have set yourself up with an account, or you've got to be one of our public servants, which I'm a bit gutted, but because I was looking forward to the magnificence that is Costco that you got really, really quite rightly excited about last week. But yeah, luckily Chris saved me about 100-mile round trip because we were ready to go, and luckily he put the brakes on that for me. So sorry, mate. I have to.
I looked it up, and my membership works internationally. So when I come over there or whichever, I'll just have to I'll have to be your chaperone to take you to Costco.
That's fine.
And get
I'm okay with that.
Get that jackhammer or whatever it is that you were wanting.
Yeah, they got some pretty awesome garden tools that I was very interested in. I like my garden tools, especially
after you mentioned it. Sorry, last week I was curious and I thought, how many Costco's are there in Sydney? And there are 3. Nowhere near me, so it would be in about an hour drive. And I think that's a bit too far. But like you, I've heard of people over here share their membership cards. So if you know someone over there, sure, share it around. I don't know if there's some sort of frequent buyer points or anything, but yeah, that's what people do over here is they share cards.
Do you reckon there could be a black market or like a Costco underground that I'm not aware of yet in the UK that's going on where people kind of, I need to get into that underworld. Okay.
Because speaking of Lego, that's right. That's where I get my Lego from. Like I'll get my Lego from Costco. Like we get all the botanicals and stuff like that from there.
Okay. You don't get any jackhammers or anything?
It hasn't come up yet. I've been
okay.
Yeah.
But you have the option, so that's a good position to be in. Anyway, without any further ado, what we should talk about is D23. So we're gonna skip the normal routine a little bit because we're a little bit pressed for time. This is the meeting of 3 different, very, very different time zones. and our guest is actually the most indisposed because it's actually first thing in the morning for him. So we need to be considerate of his working hours. So let's go straight into D23. We can talk a little bit about TV, what we've been watching, reading, and the rest of it next week. But D23, Sean, I'll pick on you first. What did you pick up from D23? I mean, there's the obvious that brings the three of us together as friends, but just off the top of your head, mate, what's your feedback, and really what got you pumped up from the news from D23?
I mean, besides the obvious stuff, like the skeleton crew trailer was better than I'd expected, better than I'd hoped. I'm very excited for that. I think I know it's only a trailer, but I think they nailed the aesthetic and the feeling that I've been excited about and hopeful, hopeful for with the show. Like when they keep talking about being like happy and Amblin-esque and very ET, things like that. It's like that has had me very, very excited. So when we got like that trailer and stuff, it's like, yes, this is exactly what I was hoping for. But I mean, even more so. The speculation's already started, and I'm pumped. I'm pumped to get it. I think that's like the big piece. Besides like the parks, all the park stuff. But I won't bore everybody with all of the parks announcements and the various things they're going to be doing over the next couple years in terms of the Disney parks and their expansions.
I guess the one thing that I will pick up on the park stuff is that we're hearing that the Mando and Grogu
Mm-hmm.
is going to appear in Smuggler's Run.
Yeah.
In the Smuggler's Run ride, which, and bear with me because you know what I'm like at going off at tangents and making connections where they're not, where there aren't really any. But you and I talked about last week. Would there be, is Skeleton Crew the right target demographic to introduce someone like Hondo as our
Yes.
as comedic relief? And we know that in Smuggler's Run, I mean, you guys have been, I've not been, but and I'm very, very jealous. But we know that in Smuggler's Run, Hondo is a big piece there. And so by definition, bear with me a second, is there an opportunity for Hondo to be in Skeleton Crew and for Mando and Grogo to be in Smuggler's Run? Therefore, we've been told there's this convergence point or this Avengers moment, sorry, between Ahsoka, Mando, and Skeleton Crew. Can we see Hondo being part of that convergence as well? I'd like to think so because I think the
Makes
guy's
sense.
rad. But I just picked up on that. Anything else, Sean? I mean, what about? I tell you what. Let's stick with it. We've gone with the Star Wars theme. So
Yeah.
so anything else from you, Turbo? What did you pick up? If we stick with Star Wars for the time being, is there anything else you picked up from D23 that really tickled your fancy?
Yeah, I mean, just on the skeleton crew trailer, I thought, yeah, like Sean said, it nailed the vibe. Everyone's talking about Goonies, E.T., even Stand By Me. The
Mm.
one movie that it kind of triggered my memory was have you ever seen The Explorers? I think it was
Yes.
Joe Dante directed. It was River Phoenix, Ethan Hawke. Um, and these kids, I'm trying to remember the movie, and I looked it up to see if I could watch it online. I couldn't find. The kids basically build a spaceship.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
the yeah, and
And they make it as well, don't they? They actually make it into the atmosphere.
that's right,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I think those kind of movies, yeah, definitely that's the vibe. So that ticks all the boxes for me. So and the other one was obviously Andor. So no, I was sick over the weekend, and sort of 24 hour kind of thing, and I went, I need to watch some comfort TV. So I put on Andor, the 4K Blu-ray set, and I did a
Nice.
rewatch on it. I think I'm 9 episodes in, and then the D23 popped up, and that, I mean, I don't typically like watching potato can footage, but I had to watch the Andor teaser, trailer, reel, whatever you want to call it. But man, that show has me hooked. Like I need that now. I
Yeah.
absolutely need that.
Yeah, it's some quality television, isn't it? I mean, we talk an awful lot about Andor being an amazing drama. It just so happens to be set in the Star Wars universe, and yeah, it does look really really cool. Um, quite a lot of cameos, quite a lot of cameos
Yeah,
that we're missing from season one are going to be in season two. So we get Ben Mendelsohn
Mendo.
back,
Yep.
and we've also got yeah, and we've also got Alan Turyk back as well with as K2. So yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be really really good, and the production crews on that little snippet that we did see in the potato can footage, the production crew there looks so relaxed and so in control. I've no doubt it's going to be another work of art. Did any of you
Yeah.
guys see the? Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say on the topic of Andor, there was an interview. I forget who it was, but it was on YouTube. Diego Luna was interviewed, and I don't know if there's ever been a kind of release date for Andor season two, but he did say in that interview it was the first half of 2025. So hopefully that kind of lines up with April timeframe celebration. Diego Luna on stage at celebration. Catherine going crazy. That's what I'm hoping.
Hopefully, get to
I'm
watch
hoping
the
we
first
get
two
to see
episodes live
first
in
two
a room
episodes live,
together. That'd be sick.
like Obi-Wan, red carpet.
I'm
I
quite
want to
greedy. I'd
see,
like.
yeah,
It would be for me. It would be great to see Diego on stage after we've already had the season. but because as far as I'm concerned, the sooner the better. But I get it, and it would make sense to have a relative gap, you know, probably a similar gap between what we've just experienced with the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew and Andor. So I get it, but I think you're right. My gut says you're right. I think Celebration is going to be a massive Andor fest, which would be cool. Did either of you guys see the Mando and Grogu potato cam footage that was out there?
I did. I did. It to me
What
is.
do you think?
I think it feels like a. I think there's somebody who was joking about it on one of their pods, one of our buddies recently. Can't remember who it was, but it's almost like Dave Filoni and John Favreau went to their technical team, or like Disney went to them and were like, "We need footage," and they're like, "We don't got anything." So they went to their technical team. It's like, "Can you whip some stuff together really quick?" Like it was all very cool and very kind of emblematic of like what we're gonna get. But I don't feel like there was really any kind of meat and potatoes or kind of story elements in it. I mean, the Enzellans were cool, and the AT, whatever the two-legged personal walker thing was, like some of
and
that
the
was pretty neat.
snow
Yeah, and
troopers
the
were cool.
snowtroopers not in snow, but like, I don't know, it was all very neat, but like it didn't give me anything to kind of go on in terms of like character or story, but it was still very neat. I love that fact that we got something. That something was better than nothing, and even just that confirmation that like this is still happening. Not that it wouldn't, but it's like it's that little nugget of confirmation of like, hey, this isn't something that just kind of goes by the wayside. Like we're moving it. Here's a taste. Here's something to look forward to. And yeah, looking forward to April too. So maybe we'll get a little bit more.
What about you, Turbo? Did you get to see it?
I watched it once. I don't like to go through it with a fine tooth comb, but one of the things I'll say is I still can't imagine Mando and Grogu as a feature length film. I just think that show suits
Hmm.
the serial
Mm-hmm.
aspect and watching it every week. I mean, sure, there's an overarching sort of story thread, but it's just an adventure, right? Like, I just can't picture it being a full feature film. I think there's going to be too many. I think it's just going to be too much of a nostalgia fest. I feel like they're going to, similar to what they put in this teaser, is they're just going to fill it with so many things. It's going to be kind of overwhelming about, nostalgia, all that sort of thing. They're just going to throw the kitchen sink in it, and I
And I guess there's a
hopefully that
risk as
doesn't.
well.
Hopefully, it
I
doesn't
guess there's
detriment from the actual story. But
yeah. No, I'm with you, and I guess there is a certain amount of risk as well, where folk that don't have Disney Plus or have got no inclination to see a Star Wars TV program, the masses, in other words, the regular Joe's bucks that they need to kind of to make it $1 billion franchise or $1 billion venture, Adventure, sorry. I guess it would you. It's a bit risky having to if they build a narrative based on events that have come in a TV series prior to that. I mean, I've heard two very different sides of the story. In that, yes, it makes sense to do this because of the overwhelming popularity of the Mandalorian, the TV series. It makes absolute sense that the first escapade back on the silver screen should be that, because that will bring people back. And let's face it, guys, the first movie that lands in cinemas of Star Wars after quite a long sabbatical, it's got to hit. It's got to make got to make cash. But at the same time, I'm hearing other sides of the story which demonstrate clear desperation or suggest desperation on Disney's side, because they don't they have to rely on the safe bet, if you like. So I don't know. I saw it. I'm intrigued to see what happens. Didn't indicate much of a sign of this convergence or this Avengers moment between the two other stories going on parallel to the Mandalorian. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, I think that's the part of it. It's like I hear the people who are saying like, oh, it's desperation. It's like it's not like Disney needs to do it. They don't.
Mm,
Lucasfilm and Disney don't need to have a movie in the theaters to make money. Like so, there to me, I feel like there's like maybe it's my optimistic side of like there must be a reason that we're like there must be a story that they think they need to tell
mm,
that will fit a movie narrative. I do think the title is stupid and I hope it changes. But like I don't know, I just have this in my head where I'm like, this is gonna be Infinity War, but for the Mandoverse. It's not gonna be the culmination Avengers event. It's not Endgame, which is gonna be the big one.
mm.
But this is gonna be I don't know why I have in my head of like this is gonna be the one that kind of sets up bringing it to a larger screen and starts setting up that larger narrative somehow with Mando and Grogu I'm kind of in the same group with Turbo of like I don't know how they're gonna do like a larger film with like a literal child who's not he's super mobile, but he's also not, and he always needs to be in like a mech. It's like how are they gonna make this, or is it gonna be throwing the kitchen sink and everything at it? But we still got a while to go, so I think I just kind of keep flipping into this like they
Mm.
wouldn't do it if it didn't make sense. Right, they don't have that much faith in Dave Filoni, right? Like there's a valid story that they feel like they can
Yeah.
tell. Or am I going crazy?
Well,
No, I hope so. I hope so. Sorry, Tobo.
I was just thinking it's going to the big screen, but then where do they take the next Mando story? Do they take it back to class, or they keep going with films? So like, it's hard to understand where they're going with this. It's intriguing, but
I'm hoping it's part one and not like 7 other seasons of shows that are then going to lead to part 2. I'm hoping this is Infinity War, and then maybe like Ahsoka season 2 or something, and then part 2 like is coming pretty quickly afterward. I'm hoping. Please.
I hope it's. I know this isn't. I guess a lot of the focus is going to be on Din Djarin, Grogu, Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, the Ghost Crew, the skeleton crew. But I also, which is the convergence piece of, if you like, the good guys. But I also really, really hope, which I think would make it a very, very compelling movie, is the convergence of the threats that have been going on in the three different timelines, or the three different series, because you've got this. We had that amazing promise of what the cloning story was about, which kind of, should we say, was a little bit more of a
bizarre.
I wouldn't say well, I was going to say it was an anticlimax, but I try and stay positive. It was a little bit anticlimactic in season 3 when it transpired that Moff Gideon was looking to clone himself rather than what we thought it was, which was kind of leading naturally into the First Order and Snoke and so on and so forth. And then obviously we've got Thrawn now. We've got the Dark Witches over in the Ahsoka universe. We still have yet to see what's going on, or what the threat or the main plot is for Skeleton Crew. But I would like to see a convergence of that, because I think that could be quite an interesting story to then veneer, if you like, with the superhero Avengers moment. The sake of a superhero Avengers moment for the sake of a superheroes Avengers moment wouldn't particularly make a particularly great story. But I'm positive, and I remain hopeful that it's good. A couple of things I also picked up on while when we try and as we're just closing up on Star Wars, because I wouldn't mind getting your thoughts on the Marvel stuff as well. I see that Jedi Survivor has been released on PS4 and Xbox One, which I think is cool. Now, I don't know whether that was part of the D23 announcements, but it certainly picked it up in the last week. So that's good for folk that haven't got the latest generation of consoles. It's making that very, very amazing game a lot more accessible to a lot more people. And then I picked up a little bit about Disney's investors call as well. No surprises at all in that, and I guess they were keeping their powder dry for D23. But confirmed that we've got 3 movies coming along, one of which being the Mando and Grogu. 6 billion in combined global sales to date. And the rest of it is all kind of numbers, which I find crazy, including retail sales for Star Wars merch is $1 billion profit engine for them every year. I mean, it's phenomenal. But yeah, anything else on Star Wars that you might have picked up or I've missed for D23?
Rebuild the Galaxy comes out September 13th.
Oh yeah,
that's that weird Lego. What's funny, the thing I picked up from the trailer was it seems like they're actually trying to do like an actual story. Like it's not just shenanigans, like just crazy weird episodes. It seems like they're actually trying to build like an arc around it of like, oh, something happened and that's caused everything to be weird, and now we have to undo it. So I thought that seemed kind of cool and fun. It's going to be like all the other Lego Star Wars and just kind of it is what it is. But I think that's cool that they're Darth Jar Jar and all that kind of stuff is funny to me.
What I like about it is it's got permission to poke fun at the franchise as well. I mean, some of the very blatant rib tickling on perhaps some of the plot points of the franchise is blatant in the trailer, and I think that's kind of cool. The fact that they're kind of allowed to get away with it. Anything else I've missed?
That like the whole theory about Darth Jar Jar from the internet is making its way to Lego sets and shows. Yeah.
So what about anything else during D23? I mean, I don't know if you guys saw some of the Potato Cam stuff for the Marvel stuff, and Turbo. I really don't know whether how you feel about the Marvel stuff. I kind of graze. I pick and choose what I like. I don't know about yourself.
I've watched everything once. I generally don't rewatch anything. So my older son's pretty much into Marvel, so we've watched every TV series. But as I said, it's once. It's a great watch, but it's not something that I'll pick apart or theorize, or just an entertaining romp most of the time. But no, I did not see any of the Potato Camp D23 at all.
What about you, Sean?
For me, it's less about some of the stuff that we saw and then more about the direction, the stuff that I'm excited about, not just for Marvel, but hopefully for everything under the Disney umbrella. It makes me happy to see that maybe we collectively we've learned from like past large initiatives like this, and it's nice to see them kind of be able to pivot away from the Kang dynasty shenanigans and all of that was going on before everything happened, and now they've got a different plan, and that seems to be in motion now. It kind of gives me hope that like the studios are able to roll with the punches more. when it comes to like real life events or whatever, and maybe some of the issues that we saw come up with the Star Wars sequels, maybe stuff like that could be handled differently in the future. And seeing this kind of with Marvel of like, hey, we did have an original path and we invested a lot in it, like, and that's fresh top of mind right now because I'm watching Loki season 2, where it's like, oh, this is still pretty heavy in the
Yeah.
Kang path. And it's nice to see them be like, hey, we're not doing that anymore. We're doing this, and it's going to be all right. I think that's cool. It gives me hope for all of these franchises going forward instead of just kind of letting it flounder or doubling down. So I did get to watch the Potato Cam. I thought they're all cool. I'll watch them all one time. I don't read the comics, but I like to learn about them from our friends in the
Yeah.
summarized versions. So it's
Yeah.
it's nice popcorn flick for me. Reason to get up and go to the movie theater.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, the one that I'm probably the most so what I picked up on was obviously we got to see there was more footage of Captain America: Brave New World, and I'll just give my top line because Turbo, all hats off, hats off to you for actually going to every. I have not. I've seen. I haven't seen quite a few of the shall we say, I don't know whether it's wave 4 or wave 5 or whatever wave it is. Essentially, after No Way Home, I haven't seen an awful lot of Marvel films at all. And in fact, Sean and I have spoken before, excuse me, about the fact that I also haven't followed an awful lot of the second seasons of an awful lot of or even the latter TV series that have been on Disney Plus either. And I'm kind of cherry picking what I'm watching these days, but still interested. So what I picked up on, what I heard, was Captain America: Brave New World is very much a return to the kind of espionage, kind of skullduggery, Secret Service theme and vibe of Winter Soldier, which is cool because that's a personal fave of mine. We saw 2 TV series, Daredevil, which I thought Charlie did an amazing job in the old Netflix production, and I'm glad that he's getting his chance to breathe within the MCU, which is great because I think he's a great actor as well. Ironheart, I don't know enough about because I never got to see Black Panther 2. So I did Wakanda Forever, sorry, and I never got to, I still haven't seen that, so I don't know what to feel about that at the moment, but it looks exciting. But the most thing I'm hyped about, and I talked a lot about it last week, so I'll be very, very quick, is Fantastic Four. We've had 2 iterations in recent decades of folk trying to modernize Fantastic Four and make it a little bit gritty, a little bit more edgy, to be in line with, shall we say, what our expectations are for modern superhero movies. But the whole take that they seem to be following for Fantastic Four First Steps is right up my alley. The idea of a different type of past, the idea of a retro, a future past, as it were, really, really is right up my alley. I love the way it looks. I love the whole 1950s and 60s vibe with a little bit of Flash Gordon-esque type of aesthetic design to it. Really, really appeals to me, and I think it's exactly the right bet that they've made when it comes down to what is probably a very, very difficult franchise to bring to the silver screen. So yeah, no, that's all I picked up on, and I'm just, like I said, I'm just really kind of reaffirming my excitement for the Fantastic Four. Okay, guys, anything else that you might have picked up outside of all of that stuff for D23? I mean, it's huge. I mean, the subject matter is expansive. It's insanely huge. I mean, I must admit, I didn't go out looking for anything else. What about yourselves? Anything?
I was going to say the thing that piqued my interest was the Indiana Jones ride or the expansion. Maybe Sean has more details on that, being the Disney Parks
So
fan that he is. But that yeah,
I don't want to say it with authority, but the way that I interpreted that was, so currently in Disneyland, California, in the one in California, there is an Indiana Jones ride where you are in a giant vehicle and you're kind of bouncing around and you kind of go through this narrative there. And it's in Adventureland. It's kind of tropical, jungle themed. In Florida, where the new Indiana Jones ride, the new unique Indiana Jones ride is going to be built, there is a park called Animal Kingdom, which has always been about preservation. It's kind of like a super zoo, but then over the years they've kind of been building up. That's where Avatar land and blah blah blah, all that crap is. There is to give you the TLDR version, when it was first, shortly after it was open, their budget cuts happened and they built like a Dino Land USA area, which is like dinosaur themed, but it's all very kind of cheap and carnival looking. What they are doing is they are converting that to, I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's kind of like the Americas, like Central, South, tropical. They're going to convert it all to that. And there is a ride there called Dinosaur, which is a clone of the Indiana Jones California ride. Same kind of vehicles, but there's a big dinosaur and all this other crap in there. I believe that they are converting Dinosaur into a similar Indiana Jones ride that's in California, but since they're saying it's going to be an all new one, they're just going to change the theming and change the animatronics and stuff like that. But I believe it's going to be the same thing that's already there. They're just going to rework that ride system so it's similar to that, but it's going to be a new theme. That's what I believe it is. I don't believe it, and it's going to fit that kind of like central tropical America's theme. That's my interpretation of what is going to be done. I could be 1,000,000% wrong though. So
it sounds cool. I mean, I did enjoy the Indiana Jones ride. I think I had a ride with Chris and Christine just before the park closed. I think we were kicked off the ride and said, "Out you go, out of the park." But yeah, no, that was fun.
That is a good one. I like that ride system where it's like I'm in a big Jeep thing, and it is just I'm waving my hands all over the place for those. It's not a visual podcast. I'm bouncing, flopping all over the place.
Well, I've never been, so I'm very jealous. Well, I've been to Euro Disney, but that's a very, very different experience, or was a very different experience.
It's like watching a movie in D-Box is like kind of what it's like. Like those.
They had the teacups when I went.
Ah, nice. Yes. I can't stop thinking about the Hondo and the Falcon thing that you mentioned earlier. Like that has literally been like a brainworm since you mentioned that. I'm like,
well, you mentioned
I mentioned Hondo, but now it's like, oh my God, are we going to see the Falcon?
You brought it up last week. You brought it up last week. You know, are we going to see Hondo in Skeleton Crew? And if that's the case, then fine. He's a good guy to have there. He's a lot of fun. And to your point, if Jim Cummings is doing the voice, it will be absolutely fantastic.
I look forward to new merch. The news about Falcons being sold with a Hondo figure instead of a Rey or a Han Solo. Now we get version 3, or Orlando. Now we get version 4.
I think wasn't the last. The Super Falcon. The 3.75 inch Falcon you can get. But the BFG, whatever it's called, BFF, the Big Falcon that they did in the early 2000s, and then they re-released it for Galaxy's Edge. I think that came with a Hondo. Anyway, just thought I'd let you know.
Cool.
Right, moving on. Now, normally what we do, because normally what we do now is we kind of go in, discuss what we've been watching, what we've been finishing watching, what we're looking forward to watching, what we've been listening to in terms of podcasts, and what we've been reading in terms of literature, which is usually the quickest part of the entire podcast. But because we've got Turbo on this week, I wanted to make a big effort to focus on something that we kind of changed we agreed to start watching last week. So for context, for those folks that weren't able to join us last week, Sean and I have thoroughly enjoyed watching a program together and talking about the latest episode week on week. And that has been The Acolyte on Disney+. Now that The Acolyte has finished, we've been looking for something new to look at. Now, we tried something recently that doesn't lend itself to isn't it particularly rich and deep to talk about. So Turbo, a buddy here, I am me and say, hey, have you tried this program on Apple TV called Sunny? And Turbo's already guilty of recommending some really really good stuff to me already. I've talked about Dark Matter before, and one day I probably we need to get Turbo back, and I would love to talk to you about Dark Matter because I found the series harrowing him at times, in fact, a lot of times. And then I found the ending absolutely beautifully put together with a nice bow on top. But he recommended Sunny. And so as a result of that, it transpired that we invited Turbo on this week. And so rather than just watch a couple of episodes over the last week that Sean and I could talk about, we decided to binge watch as much of the series as we possibly could. In fact, right up to the episode that came out today. I don't think last week. I think last week because we were still mulling around in our minds as to what we were going to do about it. We didn't give a particularly detailed synopsis, but I can do that now. And if you want to fast forward, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes or so, and you don't want to hear what the synopsis is, then please feel free to do so. But the long and short of it, the story is about a woman from the West, from in this case the US, living in Tokyo. Her husband and her son are supposedly or seemingly lost on an airplane flight, which has gone down. The airplane that they were meant to be flying on has been in a crash, and she's left with the trauma of potentially losing her family. She is given a gift from the company that her husband used to work for, in the guise of a robot, a homebot, a utility robot that basically is a companion, but also does an awful lot of chores around the house on behalf of their owner. And what seems to be a very cutesy, a very amiable piece of technology that's there to help our heroine, or our hero, sorry. There's a sinister side to it as well, in that this robot has mood swings, or should we say, develops characteristics which aren't quite part of its baseline programming. And the long and the short of it is that as a result of this robot that was developed by the company, and in fact the company that her husband worked for, she finds out that actually her husband was a big part of the development of this type of robot. And it starts a journey whereby she looks into her husband, his past, what he really was doing for a living, and it leaves the question: well, is her husband actually dead? Is her son actually dead? And she goes on this rather frenzied journey throughout the lengths and breadths of modern day Tokyo, to try and find out what's going on, and is there a conspiracy. And it involves things like the Yakuza and other nefarious folk. And it's good fun. Is that pretty much the synopsis, guys? Is that pretty much it, without giving the actual answers away?
No, yeah, well, I guess that's set up in the first 2 episodes, what you've said, roughly.
Good.
So there's not
Good.
not too spoilery.
Good.
I will correct you. She's living in Kyoto, not Tokyo.
Oh, it's not Tokyo. Sorry.
No, it's Kyoto. And one of the things I really like about the show is the aesthetic.
Mhm.
It's got this. It is set in the future, obviously, or the near future, possibly. But the aesthetic of the streets of Kyoto and Japanese architecture, and I really like the fact that the music, the aesthetic, gives you these the title sequences for me, sort of this 50s 60s lounge music vibe, but in Japanese. So yeah, I'm loving those parts.
Can I comment on that? I love that as well. I love that as well. And as a result of what I've seen so far of this series, I've ordered the book. So the book
Mm.
is obviously the TV series is based off a book called The Dark Manual. Well, the TV series is named Sunny after the robot. And reading, I bought the book because of a review of the book quite a few years ago, actually, from a very very prolific UK book reviewer, and he was saying that the writer he writes as if he's singing, playing jazz, or singing or playing jazz. Do you know what I mean? It's very
Yeah.
free form, monosyllabic, and then extremely complex, and then monosyllabic again, and that's his writing form. And I then read a review of the TV series, which then basically gave a little bit of background as to why things like the design of the things like the credits, as you say, but also the way it's shot sometimes, and then it slows down, and then it's very frenzied again, is supposedly from the director meant to be similar to the way that the original author wrote, which I found fascinating, which is the reason why I bought the book. But yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I love it. Absolutely love it. And I did say to Sean last week that the first 10 minutes or so, I really didn't know whether I'd like it or not, because this robot is very cutesy. It's very, it's very, very cutesy. And I thought this is it will be fun, but maybe this is quite a, how can I put this? It's targeted at a younger demographic, but oh no, it's got quite bloody actually in places.
Well,
I mean,
I
yeah,
think that's one of the things that.
you go.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, you go ahead. Nope.
I was
You go
going to say,
ahead.
I was mentioning the Yakuza. So, like, the thing about Japan is that it seems very modern. Um, Everyone seems very nice and polite, but there's always this underlying sense of darkness underneath. And this show really,
Yeah.
really highlights that. You've got the Yakuza, you've got the gangs and those sort of things. But on the surface, everything looks picture perfect and fine, right? Although emotionally, the way Japanese present to the world is everything's very polite, honorable. But there's always this sort of seedy underbelly, which is this show represents pretty well. John, you were going to say something?
Yeah, like I think that's spot on too. Like there's the two main things that I like about the show is one along those lines of kind of the chaos and the aesthetic of each episode that I watch. I feel like I come away with a different understanding or sentiment of the show. Where it's like where are we gonna go next? So like I think we still have 3 episodes left, so I think that might change by the time we get some like resolution to some things. But it's each episode does kind of give you a different feel and a different vibe. And that kind of touches on the main thing that I've liked about the show so far is when you're first introduced, like Sunny is this robot, it's this cutesy robot, and then you feel like you can predict it. Like I feel like when the first episode, I'm like, oh, we're gonna get like another kind of iRobot or similar kind of story. But what's nice is that it's not foundationally built on the robot or the robots themselves. It's not a robot centric show of like, oh, what are the nefarious creepy robots doing now? They are foundational to the story, but it's really about the people, and then everything that just kind of seemingly keeps growing and growing and growing from there. The robots are a part of it, and they're always in the background, and Sunny's always kind of there, and just kind of the emotional play between the robots and the characters and things like that. But it's not one of those carbon copy like AI is gonna be evil, robots are gonna take over the earth kind of trope. And I feel like after the first episode, I thought that's what it was gonna be, and I like that it's like deviated from that a little bit. They're still there, but they're just a character in the story, and it's not this big overarching oh, technology bad, end of the world kind of thing. It's a fun fresh take on it. I think that's no, I really like that.
Yeah, I also like the character. I was about to say it's character development, but it's the retrospective um retrospective understanding of the characters that we've got. I wouldn't say that it's forward looking; it's more backwards looking. So, for example, despite the trauma that Susie's going through, who's the obviously the hero of the show, is that what we find out certainly by this episode is that despite the trauma of potentially losing her husband and her family, sorry, she wasn't a great person to know, or she comes with a past. She comes with a troubled past anyway. There's some baggage there.
She kind of sucks.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. Okay, so she's reaching out to her friend called Dee in the hardest of times, and her friend Dee has text back to her, just don't be in touch. You're not a good friend. I can't be your friend after what you've done. So there's some history prior to this trauma that kind of establishes our hero as not being the best of people.
Yeah, the other thing, the whole thing with her and her husband and not knowing where her husband has worked, she just assumed he worked at a, what was it? It was not dishwashing. It was like
A
a
refrigerator.
Refrigerator
yeah,
company.
refrigerator.
Yeah.
And just the intrigue of like understanding or trying to understand that your life is a bit of a lie. You always thought that your husband did this and he's involved in far more interesting things, potentially with the Yakuza. But then at first I thought it was going to be more about her loss and her grief. And then it's the fact that she still thinks that they're alive kind of gives this edginess to it. So I think in the recent episodes, they sort of they're using these trackers to find both Sonny the robot and there may be another tracker that they don't know about, trying to think about, well, is that my husband and my son? And they go on this sort of wild goose chase to do that. So it kind of adds a bit of chaos to it, and I really like that. The fact that your loved ones could be either dead or missing or have some sort of alternate life possibly hidden away from you is it's very intriguing.
Well, I think it's on that note, I think it's interesting because like without watching the show, it's easy to assume that she was maybe like an ostrich. She had like her head in the sand and she's just, she just wasn't very observant and didn't know what her husband was up to. But it's very interesting how they tied in the fact that maybe she wasn't the best person, and what we don't have the whole picture of who she was or why she came to be there. They kind of explained some of it, like, she really liked certain pieces of culture, but they kind of touch on some of the isolation, like forced individual isolation pieces. So it's like it's almost like an entrenched self isolation and self naivete. That's kind of like she put her own blinders up a little bit of like, I'm dealing with my own problems, so I'm kind of being naive and like not really seeing fully what's around me.
Yeah.
I think that's very interesting. It's not like she's dumb, like some movies or some shows would do, where it's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea my husband was a mafia killer. It's like, no, that's not what it is, and I like that that's different and complex as well. It's like we don't fully know why how she ended up to where she was. We just know that she's got she had a lot going on, still does. And I'm hoping we fill in some of that backstory as well to maybe explain to how she got there.
I'd agree with that. I think she's, and it sounds derogatory, but it's the only way I can explain it. She's very self-absorbed, which is the reason why she couldn't see the wood for the trees with her husband. She's got a lot going on. There's history there. To your point, her reasons for coming to Japan in the first place were relatively weak. As her new buddy is, is it Mixie?
Mixie,
Points out to her, you didn't in the 10 years you've been here, you haven't bothered to learn any Japanese whatsoever. So you're speaking half truths here, and I think that honestly, her husband turned up at the right time at the right place while she was going through something, which gave her the ability to be able to, if you like, deal with whatever she was going through, and as such, she couldn't see what was going on outside, including what was going on with her husband. I mean, the fact that he was developing robots of potentially of that are quite dangerous, when she thought he was developing refrigerators is for 10 years is insane. No, I'm loving
Just
it. I'm really, really loving it. And sorry.
I was gonna, on the topic of her not learning any Japanese. I think this is an interesting take in that I think it was the latest episode. She was getting interrogated, and she does pick up on a lot of words, right? So, they have the ear translator,
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called, the Babel fish, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy kind of.
Yeah.
So they put, when she's getting interrogated, they put that on and off so she can get that translated. But when that comes off, she's picking up on a few things, and it may be that she knows more than she's leading on in terms of learning Japanese, right? Maybe she's deliberately tricking people into think she doesn't understand. And
Well,
I
I
like
think
that.
it's genius too, because I actually have a note on here that says I like the use of the translators, those ear things, or the use of them or not to convey emotion. Like especially in those early episodes, it's a storytelling device I haven't really seen used very often. Of like, it's not just that there's translation missing between two different cultures, but then now there's this third piece that also kind of connects everybody, and its way of communicating, like whether I have them in or whether I don't, is very interesting. How they use it to kind of like spin the narrative with her and her mother-in-law, with the interrogators. What Japanese does she or does she not know? It's it kind of adds like an additional layer of like human communication over the top of it, and how we interpret what is being said. I think it's very interesting. And along with that kind of like, it's how things are interpreted. The show also uses an interesting like Shutter Island kind of effect of like, there's times I think I need to rewatch some episodes because they'll show like flashbacks, but they use this kind of device where it's almost her remembering something, but she's there, but then she's like speaking her current thoughts into that memory. So it's like, what of those flashbacks are actually real, or are some of them just imaginations that she had of something that her husband did? And so I think we're kind of being led on this goose chase a little bit of what really happened. Like, is her husband a bad guy, or is he just caught up in something else? And like there's the more episodes I watch, the more I'm just like, I have no idea who's good or who's bad. Like, am I rooting for the mother-in-law? Am I rooting, is Mixie bad? Is Sunny bad? Is the mother-in-law bad? Is the guy in the laundry room bad? Is Susie bad? Like, who? It's all such chaos, and there's so kind of like misdirection. It's very, very interesting, and it's very fresh take on it as well. It's not this like linear storyline, but it's also not like the Acolyte where you're looking back at a past event. It's very mixed, interwoven and mixed with each other. I think that's very kind of cool.
So with that in mind, we've got 3 episodes left. Turbo, do you reckon this is a one and done season? Do you reckon we'll see a wrap up with only 3 episodes left?
Seems like a one and done. But
okay.
Yeah, seems like a one and done.
Okay.
And sometimes, like you said, like a lot of the times, I sometimes you don't need season 2.
No. We spoke about this on I Am about Dark Matter. Yeah. I thought they beautifully wrapped it up. It was great. And if this is a one and done, great. I'd love to see more of. I'd love to see more media like this, though. I find it fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
The other thing I'll note is
so well.
I don't know whether A24 produced this or distributed it, but I find lately a lot of the films that I'm liking are always somehow associated with A24.
Right.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. So there's a lot of good stuff coming out of that. And I got to say, I don't think we've even mentioned Rashida Jones as Susie is phenomenal. Like, I think she's the perfect actor for this.
Yeah, she does screwed up head case really, really well, doesn't she?
Yeah.
I mean, she is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
Like
You
she's kind of
want to
quirky.
like her so
Yeah,
bad. It's like I
yeah.
want to like her so bad, even though there's times like she doesn't do anything outrageously terrible, but it's just like if you would just get out of your own way, like she does that.
Mm.
I want to give you so many chances, but you just keep saying and doing stupid stuff or just things that are like, why? Why did you do that? Nailing
Mm.
it. Like you actually feel like it's a real person or you can relate it to people that you know. And it's hard to remember that's like, oh yeah, she's been in a million other things that I've seen and playing completely different characters. Like it's not a typecast. Like she's just acting her ass off in this, and it's
Mm.
fantastic. I love it.
I think
Yeah.
they all are. I think they all are. It's one of the
Oh
things
yeah.
that I mean, even an awful lot of the actors that are obviously Japanese actors. I think they're all doing a really good job. I mean, the ladies that join um, her mother-in-law in prison, I thought were phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I mean, they scared the crap out of me. I wouldn't want to be thrown in a prison with those ladies.
What do you think is going on there with that whole getting put? She got the mother-in-law got for like purposely got caught shoplifting and got put in jail with these other people that she knows. It's like what? Where is that whole thing going?
I think she stole a Combini egg sandwich. But yeah, you're right. I think I first thought it was just her trying to hide from the yakuza in in jail, but there could be something else. Maybe she needs to communicate with someone else she knows that's in jail. Um, but yeah, it's intriguing.
Yes. I did like this is random. I did like the Red Dead Redemption that all the older ladies were playing. Shout out to our buddy Eric while they're playing that on the couch after the funeral service or the remembrance thing. They're all sitting there playing Red Dead on the couch. I thought that was pretty
Well,
neat.
it's a big thing. Well, it's Christmas time as well, so they're big. They're really into their KFC. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a Christmas tradition over in Japan. Is KFC? You know, have a bucket meal. So yeah, they were doing that at the same time as well, which I thought was it's cool.
The
It's
last thing
very
I'll
very
say
cool.
is back to the aesthetic. I'm fascinated by Susie's house. Like I need that as an Airbnb. Like I
Oh
know
mate,
a lot of us are
yeah.
traveling to Japan, but just the furniture, like everything's like this brown tan kind of vibe. I love it.
And
And also
the
the
internal
bar,
courtyard.
that
Oh yeah.
Mixie works at. I want to go to that
Yeah.
bar, have a drink there.
Is that a real
Um,
place? If it is, I
oh
would like
look,
to go there.
there are places like that. I've
Yeah.
seen, I'm following a lot of things because I'm obviously traveling to Japan soon. Following a lot of things on Instagram, but there's all these bars. I'll save that. I probably won't ever get there, but there's so many things to do in Japan. It's not enough time.
No, no, exactly. Especially during a celebration because it's going to be a quick in and out. Thank you, gents. That was cool, and thank you for the recommendation, Turbo. Because I'm really stoked. We should do more of this. You're definitely coming back. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about in traditional in typical just chilling fashion. I mean, because we've been going for so long now. When we have a guest on, we'd also like to have a topic we want to talk about and that's particular to that individual or how we perceive that individual. And amongst myself and certainly with Sean and myself, we see you as a seasoned, well-traveled man, a globetrotter, as it were, because your job necessitates that. And I quite often catch up with you when you're in the most exotic of places, some more than others, in various parts of the world. And so I wouldn't mind spending 10, 15 if we're still okay for time, just really talking about kind of where you might in your travels, where you might have been that are recognizable or recognizable locations that we might have seen in the movies. And then maybe give us an idea of where you'd love to go. So if money was no object and you could even wangle it through work, where you'd love to go and kind of visit. So, Sean, are you cool with this as well?
Yeah,
So
absolutely, man.
I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't have to necessarily be a movie location, but because we're talking about pop culture, maybe just even a location that you've been to that is iconic for various reasons. So it doesn't have to be a movie location. I've chosen movie locations because I've been fortunate to have gone to a couple of them because I live in the UK. Um, but yeah, I mean, let's just start off with our guest. I mean,
Yeah.
tell us, Turbo. Have you been to any movie locations, or if
Oh
not,
yes,
any memorable
I
locations?
I definitely have. I guess the most recent one, and as you guys probably know, we hooked up at Celebration London. We had a good time. Um, I saw this beautiful friendship blossom in between you two guys, and it's always good to see. Um, but yeah, so Celebration, I took off with my family. We didn't go to the last day of Celebration, but we took up up north to
Mhm.
Scotland. So we had a bit of a road trip around Scotland, and of course, as you do, when I ever go to a new country, I'll plot in Google Maps places of interest and usually associated with filming locations or something like that, record stores, all that sort of stuff. But going to Scotland, um, I really, really wanted to see where Aldani was filmed from Andor. So um, there's a region up there called Argyll and Bute, I think it's called. Um, so the Aldani, I guess it's an imperial outpost, would you call it, um, in the Aldani Arc. Um, there's a real life place called Druid Druichen Dam, Druichen Dam.
Yeah.
So it's a working dam, a hydroelectric pump station, um, up in the Highlands. And as we were driving past, I kind of planned our route with the family that to go past this place. And as I was driving by, I just said to the family, "Can we just stop here for a minute?" And they said, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, Andor was filmed here." And so I went to the visitor center. There's a visitor center down the bottom. And said, "How do I get to the actual dam up there?" Like, I don't have a Scottish accent, so I can't I can't do this. But basically, it was they said basically we're at river level or almost sea level, and they said you can either crawl up that Munro, they call it a Munro, and there's a reason for that. Um, and you basically scrambling up a hill, directly up the hill, really steep, or you can take a long way, which is about I think it's the long way is about 9 kilometers, and the short way is 3 or 4 kilometers straight up. So I took the straight up option, and I left my family down the
Sure.
bottom because my yeah, none of my kids wanted to go. They just said, "Dad, you're stupid. I'll just stay here and have a have a cup of tea down in the visitor center." But I did it, and luckily I had good shoes on because there was a lot of cow shit and sorry, sheep shit everywhere. Um, no hairy coos to report, but yeah, it took about a 2 hour round trip, possibly. Um, but it was phenomenal. It was one of those things you start down low and you get really cold, and it's got very cold. Towards the
Mhm.
top, I had a t-shirt on, and it was a sunny day. I had my sunnies on, and I got to this outpost, or the old Danny outpost, and it was like literally you're in the movies. Like, if I've recently rewatched Andor, and I thought they haven't done much to this location. They've put a few like gun turrets here and a few other bits and pieces, but everything down to the railing. I think Star Wars is famous for having no railings, but the railings that are there
Mm.
are the real life railings around the dam. Um, yeah, it was just phenomenal. I just wanted to stay up there and hang out.
I
It
was
was
going
very
to say,
quiet.
was your family still there when you walked back?
Yes, they were.
They
Yes, they were.
they were
They
waiting
were a
for
bit
you.
mad with
Okay.
me. It took longer than I first thought, but no, it was one of those things, and I did take a few photos, and you might have seen on my
Yeah.
Instagram, but yeah, that was a highlight for me. That trip. And look, it's not too far from you, Andy. I think if you head up that way for any reason,
Yeah,
not too far, it's up
that
the road, mate.
that's the Australian brain in you coming. That's the way you think. I mean, that's at least that's a good 8 to 12 hour drive for me. I
Yeah,
guess it's a little bit shorter if I take a flight up to Edinburgh or Glasgow, but yeah,
I
stuff
just
that's
love that. the thing is, I love road trips. When I was younger, I'd always visit just the cities, and
Yeah.
in the end, a lot of cities become just very generic. Like get a lot of the same things in cities. Once you get out there and hit the road, and like as you saw, we did quite a few miles or days around Scotland, up the Isle of Skye. But it was just one of those things I love doing is hitting the road. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Especially in a country that you haven't been to before. Well,
yeah, that was my
certainly for me anyway.
first time in Scotland. Yeah, I highly recommend that if you are in the area by then.
Yeah. Next time I'm dropping by. Okay, we're gonna do a round robin, so I'll come back to you in a second. Sean, what about yourself? Have you anywhere noteworthy that you've been, or even if it's not a movie location, anything that kind of blew your socks off?
There's two of them I'll do with the ones that are probably the most sentimental first. I'll just kind of combine them. And one of those is Death Valley National Park, and the other one is Redwood National Park and state parks. Um, Death Valley obviously had a lot of the Tatooine scenes filmed there, like with R2 and Luke and things like that, and just kind of getting to go to those different locations, like Artist Palette, Dante's View, Desolation Canyon, things like that. Um, it's just kind of weird because a lot of it's still the same, and you could see where some of the you just recognize some stuff. I thought that was really cool. And then, I mean, Redwood National Park is where a lot of the indoor scenes were filmed.
Mm.
All of those kind of being in California and getting to go see those just on a road trip driving up there. And I mean, just going to the redwoods in general, is the coastal redwoods are pretty amazing, and getting to see all that has always been sentimental, I think. So like the area where like the indoor base and stuff was actually filmed has been pretty clear cut, but it's all pretty much the same look and feel throughout the entire Redwood National Park. So that's always just been kind of a special piece as well. Um, like
Okay.
definite stops I've wanted to take when I went through those areas. Like, oh, that was cool. Like just being in the same area and that same aesthetic was really fun.
Let me get my UK Star Wars out the way in one go, because this is accessible to me. So Green and Common. So the air bases that are there, the bunkers that are there, were used as the rebel base, or sorry, the resistance base in Force Awakens. Canary Wharf, Rogue One. Pretty much everyone's been to Canary Wharf if you've been in London and used the tube system. Clearwell Caves and Puzzlewood. So Clearwell Caves and Puzzlewood is actually on my doorstep. It's actually 25 to 30 minutes away from where I live now. I live in the far west of the UK. And Puzzlewood, Clearwell Caves is a movie location for a heck of a lot of stuff. It's basically an old mine that it built in. It's an old slate mine, and it's filled with stalagmites, stalactites, a lot of flooding that's been going on, and it's created this amazing um, luminescent and ambient caves where they've done an awful lot of filming of various different things. But the most across the road from there, and probably more famous, is Puzzlewood. And Puzzlewood was essentially Takodana in The Force Awakens, and it's a very, very, very weird place. It's quite a small wood, comparatively speaking, but it's very, very old. So you get this amazing amount of tree roots that literally break out of the soil and create their own paths and their own kind of architecture in their own right. And within that, in the old days, again as part of the mining function of the area, there are these very ancient steps that are built into these pathways that are created by these very, very strange and very, very old trees. And it makes a very, very fantastical location. And I'm hoping we're going to get some visitors later on this year from other parts of the world that may well be coming to visit, and I'm hoping to take them there, because it really is a quick but extremely bizarre experience. So that's kind of my local stuff out the way. Back on you, Turbo. Anything else?
Yeah, I got a lot. No.
Keep them going. Keep them
One of
going.
the things I may have talked to you on chat, Andy.
Because let me frame this. Because the next round, after the next round, I'm going to ask you, where would you like to go if money was no object?
Okay.
Okay.
This one was back in 2003, I believe, ish. So this was, prequel era. My wife and I were not married at the time. We had holiday. I think we had 6 or 7 weeks. We had half of it in Ireland, where my wife has some relatives. I think a bit in France, but then a lot of the time, I think we had 3 weeks in Italy. So 2003, we, as you do, you go through all the lovely regions. I grew up in a suburb of Sydney called Lugano. I'm not sure if you know, Andy. There's a place in Switzerland called Lake Lugano.
Yeah.
So it's very kind of similar to where, like, I know now why they did that. Right near where I was growing up in Sydney, there's a place called Como, and also I went to Lake Como, Lago di Como, and so yeah, we went to Lake Como in Italy, and as you know, the famous episode 2 Anakin and Padme scene where on the water where he says, "I hate sand." So we went to a place called Villa Balbianello, I think it's called. So it's a villa on the lake there. So yeah, episode 2 filming location. But the thing about this was, during this holiday, it was I'm not a planning guy. I'll take a step back. Wife and I weren't married, and I kind of loosely kind of thought about asking my now wife to marry on this trip, but I didn't have a ring or anything. I didn't. I just had it in the back of my mind, right? And I thought I want to be spontaneous, but it has to be the right time. So we're here, and I had it in the back of my mind. I'm thinking, should I do it here, like this place where Anakin said, "I hate sand"? That would be kind of a bit fucking wild. Um, so, and it was always in the back of my mind, and I thought, no, I can't do this. I can't have this moment associated with that because it'd just be kind of, yeah. So anyway, I didn't do that. But later on in that trip, I think a week later, I popped the question to her in Capri, the Blue Grotto. So we were swimming
Nice.
in the Blue Grotto, and I thought, yeah, this is the right time. So yeah, I think that version of the proposal was much better than the I hate sand one.
Yeah. Would she? Did you know each other by enough by then that she would have actually made the
Oh
association
yeah, oh
and
absolutely, yeah,
said,
no,
"How dare you?"
would yeah, no, she would have said, "How dare you?" So I
Right.
I think we were together 2 or 3 years before that, and
Right. By that time, she
she
already knew what she was
she
getting
she was
herself
in
into.
she was well in. She came to the midnight session of the Phantom Menace in '99. I think that was when we got together, '99. Um, yeah, she knows, and she's still with me 20 years in October, so she knows what she got
Nice.
into, and yeah. So yeah,
No,
that's
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 perfect,
my
dude.
that's my engagement story, slightly related to Star Wars.
Uh, not only is it perfect, I'm actually very, very jealous and somewhat kicking myself because Lake Como is not that far away from me, and I still have not been. My kids have been, and I've
It's just
not
down the
been.
road, mate.
I know. It's just yes. I could do a quick dog
Well, that's
leg
the
when I
thing.
get to when I get to Scotland. It's
That's the thing. You
just
say you
I could
you say you,
do
you
it in a
say
day.
everything's too far for you, but you just pop over to Portugal, no problem. Like in the
Yeah, no,
UK,
you're right.
you can
You're
just go
right.
anywhere,
You're
right?
right.
Like
You're right. You're
no
right.
excuse.
You're right. You're right. You're right. And it is on my bucket list. If we have more time, I've got a massive bucket list to share with you guys.
Yeah.
Sean.
I'll just
Oh, sorry.
tack on. I'm just going to tack on one more from that trip to keep it a nice, neat thing. This is.
Yeah.
I don't know whether this has actually happened, but we also went to Sicily on that trip. So we were sort of walking around Mount Etna, so the volcanic
Yeah.
thing. I believe that was. I don't believe the actors were there for that, but that was used for some of the scenes from Starfire in Revenge of the Sith. So the volcanic planet.
I
Um,
think you're right.
Yeah, I
Must
don't
yeah, yeah,
know
for Mustafa, yeah,
necessarily
yeah.
whether the fights were held there or the actual
Yeah, yeah.
actors were there, but I think some of the maybe the uh, second AD kind of stuff was shot in Mount Ed. So that was pretty cool. I don't really like the smell of sulfur, but
Mhm.
that was kind of interesting to walk around that volcano. But yeah,
Excellent.
Nice.
Sean, anything else? Anywhere else?
I have two. One of them holds a special place in my heart, and that is so when we used to live in the San Francisco Bay Area, there is a town called Woodside that has a place called Filoli, which is an old property that has become like a nonprofit now, where it's like they have all these like luxurious gardens and just endless stuff that you can go to. We used to be like members there because we used to love there, go and see all their flowers and all that stuff.
Mm.
But there's a couple films that were filmed there, including the TV show Dynasty and this movie called The Game, and it's all like preserved really well. And it's a really cool place to go, especially like given like the hustle and bustle of like Silicon Valley and all of that stuff. Like you can go across the major highway towards the coast, like still on the inland side of the mountains, but there's just this kind of huge piece of property with like a mansion on it and just all of these grounds with flowers and rows and
I was going to
water
say
features and
it's very green and very very. I mean, it's beautiful, beautiful gardens.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it's pretty incredible. It's like it gets a lot of the water from so like a lot of fog comes over from the Pacific coast, but then it's very
Mm.
foggy but then you have like a foothill, and so fog will roll up over the top of it and then roll down into the valley where this house is. And it's really like I hate to use the word magical because it feels like cliche and hokey, but like it's a pretty cool place to be. And just like even no matter how many times we've been, like you just go and you could walk around like the inside of the house, or they do special events where they'll have like uh holiday themed and they'll have like concerts and stuff like choirs and stuff singing like the big ballroom and stuff. But I don't know, they've used it for a lot of like I think the Wedding Planner and a bunch of other stuff, other movies as well, because it's got that
Mm.
stereotypical just like lush gardens kind of look and feel. And it's cool. It's like a nonprofit and does all this cool stuff. So that's like there's that one. But then there's the another one that I'll just kind of button up all of mine, where like City of Angels was filmed, The Bodyguard, Godfather Part Two, and Top Gun Maverick, and that is Lake Tahoe, California, right outside my front door.
Nice.
So like
Mm.
Godfather Part Two, like the big monster house that's in that, it's just like just up the road. City of Angels, like at the end, where like she's riding the bike down and gets hit by the big old dump truck.
Mm.
That's like 2 miles down the road from me, and that's actually a very scary place to drive. Not because of that movie, but because of it's just you're driving along this like spine ridge that just goes sheer off the edge into either two lakes. In Top Gun Maverick, the enemy airfield, the enemy base, is actually our local airport. Um, the funny story about that, and all the mountains that they're flying over, that's like the Sierra Nevada Tahoe mountains, like where I live. That's what all that stuff was. So we are the enemy, apparently. Funny story about the Top Gun Maverick thing is they the airport was actually getting ready to repave their runway, like redo the runway anyway, to accommodate
Mm.
larger aircraft. So they actually let them blow up like the runway, like in the scenes from the film, like where they're blowing it up. Like they actually did that to our airport runway, and it's pretty wild. Um, it's just part of the construction efforts. But yeah, Lake Tahoe, lots of films here. Good stuff.
Nice.
I did
Yeah.
not know that.
I'll be quick before I go on to round three. Sioux City, Gran Canaria. Basically, it's the most bizarre and messed up place I've ever been to. I love it. I absolutely love it. You remember the time of the 1950s, 60s, and 70s where the age of the spaghetti western, where an awful lot of westerns were coined spaghetti westerns because they were being filmed over in Italy. Well, an awful lot of them, I didn't realize this, were actually filmed also in the Canary Islands, just off the north west coast of Africa. And one of them was I can't remember sorry, I don't remember the film, but there's a location, a live film set there which has now become an amusement park, basically called Sioux City, and it's a mock Western town, perfectly preserved after the film production, now run by this big community of folk that are actors as well, that corral horses and have gunfights in the middle of. I mean, it's something straight out of what I'd expect a trip to the US to be, but it's based in a small island in the Atlantic. Fortaventura, been there. I actually went to the beach or the cliffside where part of Solo was made. So when they go to the refinery to refine the coaxium, that's in Fortaventura. Mount Etna, like yourself, I've been there as well. And a place called Chotel Jarid, sorry, in Tunisia. When Lucy and I when we were first dating, actually, it's before we got married. I found out that an awful lot of the filming locations for A New Hope were out in Tunisia, so I paid way too much money to go and see the Lars homestead. However, I went to the wrong location. So if you look at all of the information you can get on A New Hope and the filming locations, there are two locations. One is the Lars homestead, as in the bowl where the recess, which is now a hotel, which is where the majority of the original set is, where or there's basically the bubble of the house with the steps down to it. I went to that one and there's nothing to see there. So if you are going to Tunisia at some point, don't go to that one. Go to the hotel, which is called Hotel Sidi Idris. Go to that one because that's where, in fact, they reused it for Rise of
Obi-Wan.
Skywalker, didn't they? Right at the end.
And Obi-Wan as well.
Yeah. I don't know if they used. Did they actually go inside the Lars homestead in Obi-Wan? I don't know if they did or not.
They were down in the bowl. Yeah, they were down below.
Yeah.
They were. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't remember. But yeah, go to that one, not to the one I went to, which is basically the exterior of the entrance. Basically the igloo type of shape with a moisture evaporator right next to it, and that is about depending on where you set off from, it's about a 2.5 hour journey, and that's all there is. So don't recommend that one, but that's what I've done. Going on to the last one, I've got to be really mindful of your time, Turbo. Last section, money no object. We've talked about some amazing places you've been, and they have some amazing memories for you. Money no object. Where would you go? Where would you aim for?
I hadn't thought about this. Obviously, the one that first comes to mind is Skellig Michael off the coast,
you took mine. Damn it.
west coast of Ireland. The other one I'd never been to Norway, so I'm a big fan of Hoth, Empire Strikes Back. I think it was Norway. I don't know the actual town off the top of my head, but obviously there's probably not much to see there. But got to tick these things off your bucket list. But I think that one would be because I understand Norway and that sort of region's fairly expensive. Go to
very expensive. Scandinavia is very expensive. Cost of living is very high out there.
I have not yet been to any of the Scandinavian countries, so that would probably be outside of Skellig Michael. Just to tick the Norway off the bucket list would be that. Yeah.
What about you, Sean? Money or object?
I mean, money no
obviously
object.
Obviously, you're going to take the same ferry as Turbo to get over to Skellig Michael, but outside of Skellig Michael.
Well, I mean, my first answer was going to be, space. I'd love to go to space if money is no option. That would be
obviously,
the moon. I don't know. Can I go there?
Not via SpaceX though.
Yeah, I'll pay for whatever the upgrade, NASA. But Skellig Michael was going to be like my real pick, because I just think that's, I don't know, I think it'd be really cool. I wasn't prepared with a backup, but just any Scandinavian countries would be cool. Like going up near the Arctic would be neat. I don't know what movies are filmed up there, but I like that aesthetic of kind of like the northern regions of Canada, or the northern regions of Alaska. kind of along those areas. I think that would be fun. Money no option, and to do it right, to do like like a excursion, like backpacking, multi-day, maybe multi-week kind of thing would be fun. Out in the middle of nowhere.
Sledge pulled by huskies, all that stuff.
Oh, that'd make it even easier. Hell yeah! Then I don't have to walk, use my own power. Heck yeah, even better.
So for me, I think I said to both you. I mean, both you guys already know this offline, but it's my wedding 30th wedding anniversary next year with Lucy, and it's a big year for us, and it's going to get expensive. And so Lucy will never listen to. She never listens to this stuff anyway. So I think I've convinced. Lucy's the type of Sean. You already know this. Lucy's the type of person that would love to go on holiday somewhere hot, where the sea is clear and it's extremely warm, and the idea of um, uh, a place to stay on the shore itself, absolutely beautiful. So, as you've probably guessed, I think I might have convinced her that we should go to the Maldives next year. Which, of course, then the place I'm looking at the moment, of course, is I think it's called the Lamu or the Lamu Atoll, which of course is where Rogue One was filmed.
Mm.
Bastard expensive, if I'm perfectly honest with you. But if I can kill two birds with one stone and sustain a happy marriage, then it's money well spent. And the other place that we're trying for next year just so happens to be another filming location from Star Wars, is we're looking to have just a long weekend in Dubrovnik. I've never been. And that really is a stone's throw away for us, and very, very accessible for us from local airports. Not even London. We don't have to cross the country and get to London to get a decent flight out there. So that's our plans for next year. It's on my bucket list as where I want to go, and it just so happens to be already being organised for next year. So yeah, not
Interesting.
the cheapest of trips, but looking forward to it.
I thought you were going to say, when you said island or beach, I thought you were going to say Madeira, which is sort of, I guess it's technically Portugal, but it's off the coast of Africa. But that Madeira was where Acolyte, the Unknown Planet, was filmed. I don't know if you know that
Yeah,
one. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah,
how hard
yeah.
that is to get to. When I looked it up, it's like, oh, Portugal, but it's part of the Portuguese, country, but it's off the coast of, yeah, further
I
down.
don't know. I don't know if it's unusual enough to warrant do you know what I mean? To
Yeah, yeah,
warrant
no,
a 30-year anniversary. That's really the reason why I'm
yeah,
punching
yeah.
high
I love
for the
Maldives is.
Maldives.
I would love to do that as well. I
I
had a
mean,
couple more things on my list.
I'll go
Sorry,
on. Yeah, yeah.
no, it's more to do with something that I think I would like to encourage Sean to visit. But as you might know, I do a lot of trips to New Zealand, once or twice a year. I've my team members out there, Auckland and Wellington, so North and South Island. I've visited Weta Workshop quite a few times, and
Oh,
it's not filming location, but well, let's say it is, because a lot of the creatures were designed there. I think they actually did a lot of filming in studios around there. So all of Peter Jackson's uh, filming locations basically all center around Wellington, but all across the island as well. But what I wanted to say was Sean would absolutely lose his shit doing a Weta Workshop tour with all this crafting that you're doing, and I cannot recommend that country enough as well. Obviously on the North Island there's the Hobbiton, so in a place called Matamata. Um, it's near Rapongi. No, not Rapongi. Can't think of the name. But yeah, there's another few things like around Queenstown. So I've also had a work jolly to Queenstown last year. So Queenstown was there's a place called the Kawaira River. A lot of the Lord of the Rings was filmed down there, particularly the scene with Arwen, with the horses and the water, right? So that river there is a place where you can bungee jump over, right? So Kawaira River is the site of the original bungee jumping. So back in, I think,
Nice.
96, back in 96, I did that Kawaira Bridge, Kawaira River bungee jump. So look, it just in general, New Zealand in terms of Middle Earth, it literally is like you're in Lord of the Rings. Like, highly recommend.
Oh,
It's a
it
very it's probably a bucket list for a lot of people because it's other side of the earth for most. But if you are in this side of the hemisphere and you're in Australia, New Zealand's 2 or 3 hour flight, so
it
it's not that far.
is it is very high on the list. I always have a hesitation with New Zealand because that is the place that Madison wants to move to more than anything else in the world. And so it's like I have a feeling if I go
Yeah.
there, it's going to be a hard to leave. And I know she has interest in doing the I'm going to mispronounce it, so forgive me, the Te Araroa, whatever, it's the trail from top to bottom of New Zealand. Like, she would love to do that. So maybe if she goes and does that, I could just be there traveling the whole time. So maybe that's how I can swing it. But no, New Zealand is very high on the list. There's a lot of stuff I really want to see there. But there's also that cautious hesitation of like, am I going to, is she good? Because she's the kind of one, she's like, oh, I filled out our immigration paperwork and we're actually staying. That's kind of the lack of planning that I do. And she'd be like, haha, there is no return flight. LOL. So it's always like, I think that's maybe another fear is like, I'm afraid I'd love it too. And be like, oh, maybe we should. That's
do it, man. Do it.
Yeah, I know. I should. Let's do it.
In a similar vein, one place I've been to, but I've never actually explored, Iceland. I've kind of, it's been one of those locations for work, but it's like fly in, fly out. And Iceland is one of those dramatic landscapes that I'd love to see and know. Obviously, the right time of year, because something like 2/3 of the year they get very, very little light. But
wasn't that opening shot of Rogue One film there with
yeah,
Rennie
where he's farming. Yeah, where
Galen Erso.
Yeah, when Erso's farming. But farming, it's a simple life. Well, it's an easy life.
Mendo.
Yeah. Mate, I'm sorry if we've kept you over by a few minutes. I'm ever so sorry.
Really
this is
no rush.
This is actually pretty good for us. I promise you, this is actually pretty good with the timekeeping this week. Sean, come on, you got to give me some credit here. The concede that we've done
fantastic.
Pretty well.
The brevity was so brief. It was just
brief brevity.
Yeah,
excellent.
And you got D23 right. I'm over the moon right now. I'm just
I didn't get Tokyo right. That's an apology for next week. Kyoto, not Tokyo. Turbo, thank you so much. There is so much to talk to you about that I'd love other people to you and I have got to talk about Dune and our love of Dune at some point. Yep. Or sorry, Dune for the Americans. We've got to Dune. We've got to talk about that at some point. I'm so fired up for this new series that's coming out. Really, really fired up for it because it's a time that I don't know anything about. It's hundreds of years, prior to Paul Atreides. It's the birth of the Bene Gesserit. Really, really excited. Some really solid actors in the cast that have been the part of the lineup as well. So there's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots to talk to you about. But in the meantime, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your time. And where can people find you?
Where can people find me? On various podcasts.
On every podcast.
No, I hang around various podcasts, the usual. I don't use Twitter much anymore, but you can find me on Insta and Threads. I don't even know what my handle is on Instagram. Urbanography, I think it is.
Sounds about right.
Something like that. But look, thanks guys. Anytime. I really enjoy the chat. I work from home a lot, and it's always good to talk to people across the pond just to have a chat about stuff other than work, right? So, as you know, working from home can be get a bit of Zoom fatigue, but when you're talking good stuff like this, it's always a good time. And look, I just want to say I've really loves hooking up with you guys in London. And as I said, that friendship that you two have got, I love to hear it, and I love hearing you talk every week. And yeah, good time.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Means
Thanks,
a
dude.
lot.
Okay. Thank you, buddy.
No, honestly, yeah,
More,
it's
more,
That's awesome.
it's
more.
good. I just think it's amazing to see, you know, random people from across the world just joining together and a friendship kind of coming together and just having a chat across every week. And like it's like an odd couple. Like if you look at the two of you guys,
Definitely.
when would your paths ever
Yep.
when would your paths ever meet other than like Star Wars? It had to be, right? It's good time.
Yeah.
Love to see it.
It was your
Anyway.
destiny. Thank you, dude. Thank you very much. And there's more good times to be had. Not that long away now. We've only got a matter of months before. Well, okay, it's more than a matter of a month, but next April seems relatively close now. So yeah, still good times to be had. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for listening, Sean, buddy. Thank you for recording and putting up with my waffle as usual. Take us out, bud.
Thank you, Andy and Turbo, both. Thank you for putting up with my technical difficulties, and thank you to everybody who is still listening, and Andy's brevity. I appreciate that as well. You can find us at justshillin.com. You can find me and Andy. You know where to find us. You go to the website, or don't. I don't care. Until next time, it's been fun. Thank you again. Bye.
Take care, guys. Look after each other.
Later.
Bye.